What up? What up? Welcome back to Fantasy Facts Machine. Week 3 is nearly in the books. We're sitting here on Monday afternoon with George, the Truth Factory Fuchs. I'm Kev Lou, and we are going to discuss some trade targets that we were thinking might be some ways to fix your fantasy lineups heading into the fourth week of the season. So let's kick it off right away. One guy who's been extremely disappointing, but really from here on out only has upside moving forward, is DJ Moore, wide receiver on the Panthers.
Yeah, as somebody who's drafted DJ Moore multiple times, I've been very disappointed, especially considering he was, a third, fourth round guy a lot of the time, maybe even earlier for some. He had an absolute just abysmal game yesterday. He got overthrown a couple times. They tried to include him in a couple rush plays. He did very little with those. We're hoping some of it is just getting used to a new quarterback, but he's played with worse quarterbacks than Baker, and he's produced. Carolina's been in every game. They finally found a win. That team's not bad, and Moore is their number one target, like through and through. McCaffrey staying healthy is obviously very, very important, but if somebody's going to be catching a lot of balls, it's going to be DJ Moore. So I think right now buying low is probably much better than selling low.
No, their team has a lot to figure out still with Baker at the helm. One thing that does concern me about that team is Baker seems to find ways to
to minimize his talent?
minimize his talent. I mean, you saw like OBJ, you saw, Jarvis Landry were his receivers, and for some reason they just never put up the same statistics that they put up on their teams with better quarterbacks, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not empirical data that's actual proof. I think just some weird coincidences. Just looking at more stats year after year, I mean, this is his third or fourth year in the league. He's been about as consistent as you can find. I believe that consistency will come through again.
Yeah, and I would say that there are probably people who don't have as much faith in Moore as we do, who are willing to get rid of him. They're probably fed up with him. They see Baker as his quarterback. They might, have a weakness if you have someone on your bench that you can trade them. You might be able to get more for some pretty good value at this point in the season. Another guy who is underperforming is Javonte Williams on the Broncos.
Well, and for me, I don't think it's as much underperforming as just not getting enough carries. He's the hardest running back in the league to bring down, and for some reason, Mike Boone's getting 20% of the carries in Denver.
Yeah,
I'm still a little confused by Nate Hackett.
I think Nate Hackett's confused by Nate Hackett.
I think that's a very fair point. But yeah, Melvin Gordon got the touchdown yesterday. Williams finished with 55 yards, something like that.
I think a telling stat to me is that Melvin Gordon now has 3 fumbles in 3 games. That can't help the cause for him. Mike Boone missed a couple, receptions yesterday when they had an offense that couldn't do anything, and he missed. He's wide open in the flat, missed the catch. It might not have been the best throw ever, but he could have caught it. So for me, things point towards Javonte Williams. He did have, I believe, 65 yards receiving against the Seahawks, which
he got a ton of catches in that second half, and he's more than capable of that. It's just the frustrating thing is, what are we seeing that he's not seeing? I mean, it feels like he's clearly the best running back of the trio. Clearly the most explosive weapon they could use offensively, and with the way that offense was going, the few drives they had sustained anything was they were running the ball a lot. So you can use him in a plethora of different ways. He's a guy that is young, is ready to play, and should be playing and getting more touches than he is. Right now, he's not. So if somebody else feels that way, I would be willing to take that risk and try to perform.
Yeah, and as we all know, trades in fantasy football are about throwing something out there and seeing if someone will bite on it. So, I feel like if there was a redraft right now, Javonte Williams probably falls from like the 3rd round to the 5th or 6th round.
I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah.
Based on his stats. So maybe you can throw something out there, a wide receiver that you don't need, and see if you can get Javonte Williams for a steal, because it seems like, he's basically on the watch. He's gonna start getting more carries, I would guess, and he's gonna start performing. I mean, he's already performing. He just doesn't have the touchdowns to show for it.
The talent's there. And listen, we sound like we're panicking pretty hard here. It's not even a quarter way through the season yet. Just something to keep an eye on.
Yep. How about Chris Godwin, who's only logged 1 game so far on a team that is in dire need of a guy to start performing with Mike Evans. Well, Mike Evans will be back, but they definitely need a number 2 receiver there.
Well, I mean, you obviously target Godwin next time the Bucs play the Saints, because Evans is going to get suspended again. So that's, that's just looking ahead. I'm not sure when that game is. Godwin, I think you said it best. He's only played one game. He's coming off a pretty rough injury. I love the guy. He's their only receiver that runs across the middle of the field. He catches everything that's thrown at him. How much do you trust him?
Yeah.
If that injury is lingering, it's going to be a very, very expensive proposition. I'm skeptical on Godwin. I understand that if the value's low enough, you definitely take that chance. But I'm worried about guys that have his kind of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The hamstring is a nagging injury that he has right now. But Russell Gage filled his role last game. Brady was visibly frustrated with Gage.
Gage had a huge fumble.
Yep. So I would guess that Brady is chomping at the bit for Godwin to get back in the game, as well as Mike Evans, I'm sure.
For sure.
So I think once he does get back in the game, hopefully healthy, he'll get a lot of looks. CeeDee Lamb, another wide receiver who's not really shown up yet this year.
Yeah, and again, that one's hard to evaluate because, as much as everybody loves Cooper Rush is Cooper Rush. Like, he's not going to air the ball out like Dak will. Dak should be coming back earlier than we expected. He could be back as soon as a couple weeks. Lamb is the number one guy.
Yes, Jerry Jones, Dak will be back by the second half tonight.
Yeah, God, I hope not after what we saw with Tua. Nothing would surprise me, I guess. But, yeah, CeeDee's got, he's a talented guy. People are saying, he's not a number one receiver material. Like, he's incredibly talented. I just don't know how talented that offense is in general. Gallup not back. Noah Brown's playing that second receiver, so he's not getting as much attention. Maybe Gallup coming back will actually free up some looks for Lamb. Yeah. And Gallup should be back next week, the week after. His value is pretty low, too, though. I mean,
yeah, I think the good thing going for if you're targeting CeeDee Lamb is he is getting a lot of bad press where people are saying, he doesn't look like he can handle the number one position or the number one receiver role. But I don't think that's true. I think, obviously it takes some adjusting.
Yeah. I think he's a guy that you hold on to and just kind of,
Yeah, but he's another guy, I'm sure that there's owners out there that aren't happy with him. Sure. They'd be happy to trade him for, some random, number 3 running back or something. So it's always worth a shot. Another guy who's had an incredibly slow start, who people will probably be a little more reluctant to let go of, is Austin Ekeler. On the Chargers, I believe.
Wait, you're telling me 80 rushing yards for 3 games doesn't do it for you?
Yeah, 80 yards rushing so far in 3 games. He does have a bunch of receptions for like 150 yards, but he's, that was supposed to be one game for him.
Yeah, the usage is worrying for sure. I mean, Josh Kelly's getting way more time than you expected. Michelle's stealing goal line carries. We mentioned this last week or a couple weeks before. I'm not terribly worried yet. I think the Chargers offense has a lot of potential still. Any offense with Justin Herbert out there should. Them losing one of their best linemen hurts a lot. Mm-hmm. Mike Williams doing Mike Williams stuff, one catch a game. Surprising. I think that team in general has just started very slow. I don't think Eckler's going anywhere. But again, if somebody feels pretty negative about him, he might be a guy to try to get right now because his value is real low.
Yep. Yeah, no, he's... I really don't think he could be doing any worse than he's doing right now.
It would be pretty hard, yeah.
But the Chargers also aren't doing too great either. And if they want to improve, Eckler's going to have to be a big piece of that. I mean, they have obviously Mike Williams needs to step it up also, but
yeah, one catch a game is just not going to do it. I mean, he goes from nothing to amazing to nothing, and just kind of the way Mike Williams has been. So
yeah, and I mean, speaking of some low value on the Chargers right now, Herbert isn't looking as good as he was at the beginning of the season, mainly because he's injured, but his numbers also aren't as strong as expected, and maybe someone would be willing to trade him.
Well, you have to be concerned that, the people running the Chargers are the same people that made Varsity Blues. Like, it's if we can inject him with something and he can play, he's going to play.
I thought what I heard was that they recommended he wouldn't play, and then he wanted to play, so they put him in.
He toughed it out in that Thursday night game against Kansas City, where he couldn't run a yard for a first down and then made the best throw of the year. So the guy is obviously just a dog. I don't know. I don't know what you're going to have to give up to get him right now. If he's not healthy, I don't know what kind of upgrade he is. But again, much like Godwin, the health situation definitely worries me. A quarterback with bad ribs, not a great combo. So I would kind of be patient with him, both as somebody pursuing him and both somebody holding on to him.
Yeah, and honestly, Keenan Allen's another guy who, on the same team of disappointing offensive output, who knows if he'll be back next week, if he'll be back the week after. We keep thinking he'll come back, and he really hasn't come back fully or at all. So you might be able to steal him from someone because he is by far and away Justin Herbert's favorite target when he's on the field.
He's one of the best PPR guys you can just possibly imagine. He just last year finally stayed healthy. We were hoping the same thing would happen this year. Not yet, but it doesn't seem like it's a very serious injury. It seems like he should be back as soon as this week. They're in Houston. It's not only a winnable game, but it's a huge game for them. They can't go down to 1-3. So
no,
we'll see.
Although the AFC West, they may be able to.
Yeah, the Raiders are going to rip off 9 or 10 straight wins. So that division's.
Yeah. So the one other guy who I think, even though he's had actually a couple pretty good games, but I think he's going to keep improving is Cortland Sutton. He doesn't have any touchdowns yet. He does have a...
Wait, does that offense have any touchdowns yet?
The offense doesn't have any touchdowns. No. But I think that, he's clearly Russell Wilson's favorite guy to throw to, and I think the touchdowns are going to come for him. So I may try to trade for him in a couple of my leagues.
I love Sutton. Sutton's definitely a guy, if somebody doesn't want him, you do what it takes to get him. What you said is 100% right. Like, Judy's going to get his, but Sutton is by far the guy that Wilson looks to over and over and over again. Russell looked... whatever you want to say about last night's game, it was hideous. It was an 11-10 final score. In the second half, Russell started doing some Russell-like things. He was moving in the pocket a little bit. The receiver he was targeting over and over again was Cortland Sutton.
Right.
They have KJ Hamler. They have Hinton out there a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Sutton is the number one receiver on this team. In an offense that's barely doing anything, he's the one that's still producing. And in PPR leagues, that's incredibly important. If somebody's willing to sell him, I would definitely try to get him right now.
Yep. So anyone else that is on your radar?
Well, if you can pick up Mac Hollins on waivers, obviously pick him up. He's the best receiver in the league right now.
Mac Hollins is on everybody's waiver wire, so yeah. I would try and definitely go for him.
Yeah, don't overspend. But, some of the backup running backs that are going to get chances, I feel like they're more rostered than not at this point. The Khalil Herberts, the Jamal Williams.
All the guys we told you about last week, pretty much.
Absolutely. So hopefully you listened last week. But in terms of trade targets, this is going to be an interesting couple weeks. Some teams are going to start feeling pretty dire. In their fantasy seasons, they're starting to go 1-3, 1-4. People panic. People panic a lot faster than NFL teams do. So
yeah, and again, the trades, in fantasy, I'm in some leagues where there are no trades. I'm in other leagues where there are trades, 3 trades a week, and it's just about throwing something out there and seeing if people will bite. So
yeah, you throw enough, stuff at the wall, something will stick. So
exactly. So good luck. Hopefully you can plug the holes in your lineup, as I'm sure all of us need to do at this point in the season. And we'll get back to it next week. This is George, the Truth Factory Fuchs. I'm Kev Lou, Fantasy Facts Machine. Don't forget to like, follow, and comment. Appreciate it. Peace.
Squad, wake up and pray. Turn on the tube, don't believe what they say. Get out my way, I got sleepers to play. Shooting my shot and I seen who you wave. You waving the flag, I'm just chasing the bag. Almighty special, we taking it back. Doing our dance while you blaming the draft. I'm a machine, just stating the facts. I'm a machine, just stating the facts. I'm a machine, just stating the facts. I'm a machine, just stating the facts.